Hello, I am thrilled to welcome Kelly Lakas to the show. Kelly is the CEO and co-founder of Onyx Point Systems, a company that helps associations and businesses use AI to get more value out of the data that they already have. In addition, Kelly is someone who has truly redefined what's possible in career and in life. Welcome, Kelly, to Rise and Reinvent.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Nicole, and I'm so thrilled that we were able to connect and I can be part of this.
Thank you. So am I. And so, to kick us off, can you give me 3 minutes or less, just an overview of you, not your job, but you as a person? I'd love to hear more.
Oh, sure. So I am here's my best explanation of me as a person. I was at a wedding for my cousin, and my sister told her boyfriend at the time, "Oh, you'll meet my sister Kelly soon." And then a friend of ours said, "Oh no, you don't meet Kelly. You experience Kelly." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's kind of a thing." I'm very animated. I'm enthusiastic. I'm loud. I'm also very direct and very assertive and confident. I want to just do and go. And so I am an experience is what I like to say. But I am also not only in my worked in IT my entire life, I am also a ballroom dancer and a makeup artist. And I'm a sci-fi geek. I'm all into that. And I'm also a wife and mother, which is fun too. And I have two teenage boys. So I have a lot going on.
Excellent. That's always good. Well, it keeps you busy, but that's
Oh
fun
yeah.
because you get to spread the love. Um, so as you think about life, right? You've had transformation, you've had different things you've done across that period. How do you navigate either taking a risk, fear, self-doubt in
Oh.
those times of your transformation?
Well, I mean, I'm going through transformation right now. So, in that, I've been project management, program management my entire career, and I'm taking on this role of CEO, which is, business development and sales and hype and also the other nitty-gritty of just running a company. And so that's been my reinvention right now. And there's definitely some feeling of imposter syndrome, like, oh, no, what am I doing? And can I do this? And like, I think I found that the support of my family, I mean, it's cliched, but I do have a great family. I have three younger sisters. I'm lucky enough my parents are both alive. My mom is a very strong-willed woman. It's kind of where I get it from. So they're all there to support me. And then I have I have friends and family, friends as well, and then my husband as well. We're all there to support me and, cheer me on. Um, but for people who don't have that support, it's got to be hard. You've got to find your tribe, I think.
Mhm.
So those are the things I've leaned on, and I lean on I'm willing to learn. And so I have taken every webinar, I'm reading all the books, I'm reading all the articles, I'm absorbing as much as I can, talking to everybody I can. I think actually the second biggest thing for me is that when I meet somebody over LinkedIn or at a networking event, and they say, "Hey, let's talk for a half an hour," I'm like, "Yes." And it's been great. I've just been saying yes as much as possible. And I've learned a lot about it. I've gotten leads, I've gotten information on how to do that. I've been able to help people as well. So I think, just being willing to say yes is to something that maybe makes you a little nervous has been really helpful for me to try to reinvent into this role of a CEO.
Okay. Networking for sure is important. Um, can you talk about that maybe in a bit more detail? How comfortable are you with networking, and how did you build those skills to be strong in networking?
I don't know if I'm comfortable networking, but I am. So when I was younger, my mom would always say that, "Oh, Kelly found another friend." And she was like, I would come up apparently everywhere we went, no matter where, we'd be like, "Mom, I have a new friend." So I think so I have some natural talent for that. I will say that what I find most difficult is remembering people's names. And actually remembering faces. I'm actually really bad with both of those. So I will be like instant friend, but then I'll see you again in 2 months and be like, who are you? Did we talk? Did we meet?
Right.
So, I've been, well, there's a lot of networking groups in the local area that I've been on, and I'm also trying to be involved in some virtual ones. There's actually somebody who I work with, not work with, but I've met through this who does networking workshops and classes and offers that. So I may be adding that in. It's always be connecting, which is great. So they have he runs like networking classes and he runs networking groups. So that I think is helpful. And a lot of it's just been doing it, just going out there and just that hump of getting over that. Okay, I did it. Because everybody's awkward. Everybody feels weird. And I'm very outgoing, and I'll just go and talk to people. So, that I think just getting over to your actually attending is your first step. And then just kind of learning to let go of that awkwardness and kind of just talk to people because they want to talk to you. They want to talk they want to talk to you. They want to sell their thing to you, or get their information to you. So if you even just go up and you start with, hi, what do you do? Or hi, what are you here for? Without starting off talking about yourself,
Hmm.
it kind of opens that up because they want to. Everybody wants to talk. You want to talk about yourself. So they want to talk about them. So give them that opportunity. But it's definitely tiring. If I have too many networking events like in a week, I'm like, I'm worn out. Like it takes energy to do that and maintain that. But so make sure you get your rest in between.
So, are you an intro? Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
You know, that's an interesting question because I have heard from a therapist that extroverts are people who get more energy from talking to other people, not just that they're outgoing.
Yes.
And so I feel like I'm very extroverted and I like to talk to people and I will just talk to whoever and I will make friends forever and just talk. But when I need to recharge, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to read a book. I love to read. I only read books that are about 400 pages or over because I read so fast. So, and I only read science fiction and fantasy. I'm kind of picky. Um,
Okay.
but I read constantly, just constantly. I must read probably 2 to 3 books a week. So I read a lot. So
Okay.
that's
So
my
that's your way to
recharge.
recharge. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. As you think about your journey, um, this is all like great news, great things. How has failure shown up and built you into the person you are today?
Oh, well, I've gotten laid off a couple of times. I think you don't really get you didn't work in IT without a few layoffs, and that was definitely hard, even if it wasn't, you know, it was a layoff and it wasn't, performance related. That's been really tough and moving past that. So, and it's funny, each time that I've gotten laid off, I've then fallen into sort of a different, doing the same thing I'm doing, but also fallen into a different business. It's given me the freedom to do something else. So the first time I was laid off for about 6 to 8 months, and I really spent time honing my makeup artist skills because I was very much into my ballroom dancing and I was doing it a lot more then. I'm kind of taking a step back as my son goes to college. It's, the way I do it was a little expensive, but I really got into doing makeup artists. There was some great in Chicagoland. There's some great makeup schools, and so I took a lot of lessons, and so I really went into that, and I really focused on doing that. I did a lot of test shoots. I did brand work, so that was really fun, and I really got into that. Now this one, after this layoff, we started with this CEO with this AI company, and we're right on the wave of the AI. I know everybody has an AI company now, but we have one who's actually been our co-founder is actually a PhD in AI and machine learning, has been for 10 years.
Okay.
So he's we I feel like we're a little more legit. So that's kind of how I've had to deal with that failure is that reinvention. Um, and just kind of doing it gives me the opportunity to do more, right? I was a gymnast when I was younger and a diver, so I've been in sports my whole life. And every failure, that teaches you more, right? You learn more from fail. It's a cliche, but you learn more from failing or losing than you do from winning.
Right.
Um, and so I've had to make it through, not doing well at competitions or not, I hurt my knee when I was younger. And so I lost a lot of my skills and had to come back from that. But then I kept going. Like I hurt my knee in gymnastics and then I was on a diving scholarship. So you learn something from again, it's a cliche, but you do actually learn something from your failures. And you have to not let it consume you. Definitely wallow, take your wallowing time. I'm a big fan of wallowing time.
Hmm.
Cry, do whatever you need to do, wallow, and then you pick up and move on. So
How do
that's
you build the strength to pick up and move on?
how do you build a strength? I mean, to me, I feel like sports do that. Individual sports. I'm not a team sport girl, but they
Okay.
can as well. I think that having some sort of sport or some sort of competition when you're younger that you're dealing with, because you will fail at those as you're learning it. No
Hmm.
matter if it's chess or if it's, euchre or something, or if you're doing gymnastics or you're doing baseball or whatever. Um, I think sports are one things that help you when you're younger to learn that resilience because you learn to fail. Or even if you're playing piano, the first time you do it, you're gonna screw up. You're gonna have a recital. You're gonna miss something up on those fingers. So I think when you're younger, you have to kind of have the safe space to fail and learn to move past that. I think when you're adult, it's more difficult, but I still think that something like some activity, whether it's like running or bowling, or I do ballroom dancing, and there's a lot of older adults who get into it, middle-aged and older adults who get into it, and you learn to lose there too, because you don't win every time you're out on the dance floor.
Hmm.
And so I think you need to have spaces to be able to fail without a huge amount of emotional or, mental impactment to yourself. That's the
Hmm.
word. So that you're then willing to take those risks. And then, if that happens, I mean, I brought down a major Fortune 500 website once accidentally. So, but I still worked there for another 2 years.
And you learn from it.
And I learned from it, and I learned, hey, I'm not going to use this vendor anymore. And I don't trust when they say they can handle that caching because
Yes.
they can't. So,
Right.
you know, but I survived it, right? And they were, I still kept going. I was on the contract. I was still work for that company for another 5 years. So it's kind of a thing.
It's it sounds like it's really like first having that safe space where you feel comfortable with taking a risk.
Yeah.
And that risk could be a success or a failure. But if it becomes a failure, then learning how to build resilience and come back from it, right? And maybe that's in your case with the website, taking accountability and saying, yep,
Oh,
I did it. It was me. And then people respect you for that accountability. They're like, okay, she fessed up to it. She didn't point the finger. And to me, that's huge in terms of how you can overcome failure.
I think you're totally right. The accountability is a piece that I didn't even think about because I'm big on accountability, and I will own up to my mistakes, and I try to be that. I mean, obviously I'm human, so I don't always see it, but I think you're right. Accountability is a big piece, and knowing that maybe you did make a mistake and learn from it. If you don't have that self-awareness, I don't think you can grow. So, and
Agreed.
I've been privileged and lucky enough to have, the support of my family and, to have enough generational wealth in my background. I'm not wealthy, but I have, they had a stable house. We went to a good school. I've had all that. So I've had a lot more chances to be in safe spaces to be able to fail. So I think maybe somebody who wasn't as privileged as me, it'd be harder to do that. But I think there's got to be ways for people to be able to find that safe space.
Yes, absolutely. And as leaders, creating that safe space for others sometimes is great too.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Oh,
Yes,
yeah. Look at you. That accountability, I like that. And creating that safe space. Yeah, we're gonna have to.
especially as a CEO.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we only have 4 people right now, including me, but I do have to create that space for us to take risks. That's a good point. I am gonna remember that. Thank you.
Because sometimes people, they have fear. I'm going to lose my job if I mess this up. And one of my favorite quotes is perfection is the enemy of good, right? So if you're striving
Truly.
for perfection, um, there's a risk that you might fail. So anyway,
Yes.
I love that. Um, how have you continued to reinvent yourself while staying true to who you are?
I think I'm always loud. Like I just know I'm loud. Um, it was funny. I'm trying to think what it is I've reinvented myself. So you do have to reinvent yourself a little bit when you get a new role, right? At a new company. At least I've found you got to fit into their culture type of thing like that. Um, I think with that, I've been lucky enough to be able to, as I've gotten further in my career, bring up the fact that I am direct and I am assertive, and I may not fit the mold of what you expect a project manager to be when I was getting roles. Because, a lot of people think they just sit there and record and take tasks and things. And I'm like, no, I'm here to solve the problem. I'm here to deliver business value from IT and software development. And I'm here to make this thing go and deliver it. Um, and so I'm out there and I'm helping and you know, I'm very ahead of issues and risks and things like that. So I think I try to keep that all the way through. And if I was interviewing with a company or if I was looking to make a change or going to a different group, I would actually bring that up. Like, how comfortable are you with somebody who's actually going to speak up, who's going to be direct, who's going to be assertive? As a woman, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable with a woman being assertive and direct? Or are your people going to be threatened by that? And there are a couple places that just did not, I was like, this is not grabbing me. So, I mean, I'll change a little bit, but I'm not going to change my whole self to be there. I'll adjust. Everybody has their, code switching that they do from when
Mhm.
they were friends or with their, business, and you kind of have to do a little bit of that. But I kind of try to keep myself um, me and know that I am direct and assertive. But a lot of that came with time. When you're younger, I think it's harder to do that. Um, So I would say, time and just being patient with patient with yourself and knowing that this kind of taking some self-awareness, having a good therapist is a big fan. So you know yourself, you can talk through those things and you have to you have to really be a little bit, again, you have to go back to self-awareness and accountability, like you were saying. You have to be accountable to yourself about what you do and how you handle situations. I do have a temper. I have to watch it and I have to be aware of it. And I did not handle it well when I was younger, when I was in business. And now I handle it a bit better because I've learned the techniques that I need to do and what I need to do. I've talked to my therapist, gotten those things. So I think my theme seems to be you make sure you have some sort of support as well outside of it. If you can, if you're privileged enough and you're lucky enough to be able to have that support, find somebody to do that, even if it's not like a trained therapist.
Yeah, even if it's not the traditional support, having support is key because then, especially someone who knows you, right? You can go to them and say, "Listen, am I off base on this?" One of the things you said that I mean, you said a lot of great things. I really loved how you talked about going in at the very beginning and saying, "I'm outspoken. I'm going to express my values. I'm going to express my point of view. Is that going to work in this culture?" I mean, that is huge. People always think that, they're the company is the one who ultimately makes the decision, right? And I always coach people and tell them like this is a mutual opportunity to see, is this company the right fit and are you the right fit for them? I said, so go into it with confidence and talk about, what you need in order to be successful in the role, not just what they need from you. And so this is a great lesson. And I agree with you. Doing this maybe in your first 5 years of your career is probably not, easy to do. But as you progress in your career and you become more senior, I think it is a great strategy to understand the right fit from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Because and you have to be, I think I've found also that I would think, and I think it's counterintuitive, but I have found that the smaller companies I have worked for are less forgiving of different personalities, especially less forgiving of direct personalities. But the larger companies, you would think, oh, they're behemoth, they're this monolithic Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company, but they've got so many people, they need somebody to cut through and they're so big they can absorb the different personalities and the different ways so I've actually found myself much more successful being who I am at the bigger company. The smaller companies want you to fit very much into that little box that they've made that is their culture, and stepping
Mhm.
outside of it's not great. But yeah, you definitely I missed earlier on, probably about 10 or 12 years ago. I was looking after my first layoff, and I was looking for another role, and we had young children. So I was like, to go find something. And I kind of didn't listen to some of the warning signs. And they were like, well, we don't really know what to do with peons. We don't really like them and all that. It turned out to be an awful position. And I left after about 12 months. and I should have known that. And so you got to listen and at that time I was like, oh, I have young kids. I need to make sure we were bringing in the money still. We wanted to
Mhm.
buy a house. And then I was like, oh, this is a terrible place to work. And I knew it. I knew it. I still remember the interview and hearing that. I was like, so, but yeah.
Yeah. And the takeaway from that for me is knowing your strengths, knowing your passions, knowing your values. But a lot of times you maybe can have to push those to aside just to get the role and
Yeah.
keep the bills paid. So I understand that, but the best way is making sure the values align with the role and the expectations are clear from the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. They meet with your values and matches with theirs. Yeah. Completely. I agree
Absolutely.
with you completely.
So in some people's careers, right, they start with a company entry level and they go straight, they have a path to the top, right? And eventually they become the C suite. And other careers like mine, and it sounds like yours, there's zigs and zags and, lots of different, getting off the track and then getting back on and then going down a different track. As you think about your journey, um, what would you tell your younger self to be prepared for this career where you are today?
Oh, I would probably tell my younger self to learn to redirect my temper
Okay.
and understand, like, have those earlier coping skills that maybe I didn't have when I was younger. That's what I would tell myself because, I just recently I was livid about something that I need to do, and so I went and I did basically what I do is I organize something into a spreadsheet. It's very project manager, and I ordered all this information, and I was like, ha, I'm right. And then like I could get on the call and I didn't go out and say that. I was like, hey, so here's our situation. Let's talk through this. What can we do to move forward? Let's not move back. But I got like all of the anger out by being like that. And even if it's something that I did wrong, like I'm like, oh, I did it wrong. And then I can, I have found that's a coping skill that I think I would have benefited a lot more from when I was younger, is to understand how to cope and deal with that, knowing that I have a temper. Because I don't think I realized how much of a temper I had when I was younger. Um, and just being able to understand that, I think that would be the biggest thing. So, yeah.
That's great. And that coping skill can be, yes, project managing the issue, or
Right?
it could just be giving a pause, right? You know what? I feel very, what's the word? I feel very against what was just said and the decisions that are being made. But maybe I'll say, I'm going to take 24 hours to think about it and come back with my positioning. Then it may come across less, you know,
Reactionary.
reactionary. Thank you. Yes. And so that's a piece of advice I give, to everyone. It's like take a moment and pause and think about it before you respond. Because if you respond initially, you're doing it in a very emotional way.
Yeah.
And the coping skills you described take some of the emotion out of it. It's more fact-based because you've done the data and you ran the spreadsheet.
Even if you don't like the data and the data showed that you were wrong, like at least
Right.
you know, and you can
Yes.
you can point back to it. Yeah. I mean, it's like, a lot of people say write the email but don't send it. I've done
Mhm.
that. Like I don't put anybody in the name because you got to be careful. Don't put anything in the to because he might actually click send. But I've written the nasty email and then come back the next day and be like, oh, okay, I'm not sending that to anyone.
Absolutely. We all go through it.
Oh
So
yeah.
it needs to be talked about more for sure to
Yes,
embrace it.
yes, absolutely.
What would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about a career reinvention or changing completely?
Oh man. It's funny. I was just having a conversation with one of my brothers-in-law about that, and he was like, "I can't just go back to school and change everything." And I'm like, "Yes, you can." And I'm forgetting her name, but it's not Shonda Rhimes. It's Ava. I can't remember. The woman.
Ava DuVernay.
Thank you, DuVernay. Like she reinvented herself at like 45, 50, right? And like suddenly is like a filmmaker, right? And you hear about it all the time, where, oh, they hit 45, they hit 50, they hit 35, and they're like, oh, I'm redoing it. Or I'm going to, maybe definitely not everybody can afford to do, go to school and get something. But I think the perception is that the misconception is that you're too old to change. And I think that there are definitely currently now and in the past, a lot of things, there's a lot of examples of people they've changed at 45, at 50, at, 55. And part of it maybe is instead of, assuming that you can't change because you're older, maybe it's because you have the stability at that time and you had that learning and you're more centered in yourself that you can then change that and reinvent it. So I think the biggest misconception is that you have to be young to change things and change yourself and reinvent yourself.
I absolutely love that. Because I mean, with the speed of technology and the way that just processes and change and new jobs, new roles, all these things, if you don't change and reinvent, then it will be challenging to thrive.
Yeah. I mean,
Eh,
we're going through it right now with AI and it's very similar. So I graduated right around when the dot-com boom kind of happened and went. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been through that and I remember people saying, I just need a website. What are you going to do with that website? Well, I need a website. And now people are like, well, I need AI. And I'm like,
Yes.
what's the business value for your AI?
Yes.
We see a business value in ours, and we understand where it's coming from, but there's a lot of that out there where like, it's AI. I'm taking it.
Right. It's everywhere.
I know. So you're right. But that's a constant change. And everybody was scared the web was going to take away everybody's job, except
Mm-hmm.
it made a whole bunch of new jobs.
It did.
You know, some
And
people did lose their jobs. I'm not saying that people didn't, but suddenly there was a whole new world out there. And I think, yeah, when the technology changes and everything changes, you still have to understand there's still opportunity there. It doesn't mean it's going to go away.
but if technology changes and let's say, you lose your job, the next thing you do is reinvent yourself, right? And position yourself. Take those transferable skills, bring them up to the forefront, and then figure out how do I add on to these skills to build my next brand, personal brand in my career. And so people kind of thinking of sometimes transitions and layoffs as a way to learn, reflect, and build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be hard. I mean, I don't doubt it's hard, especially if you need that money coming in. Kids. I don't think anybody's saying that it's not something that's difficult and it's not painful to have that happen. Um, you know, but if you're lucky enough to have that support, you have that, our family and friends around who can help you out with that. That does help you handle that a bit more and allow you to do that reinvention. So,
Or creating your own tribe if you don't have it,
yeah.
creating the group of people that you can rely on for sound advice or direction and guidance.
Or just an ear to listen to, an ear
Absolutely.
so you can
Yes.
talk to.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Um, how do you balance ambition with your personal fulfillment?
Oh, goodness, that's a good question. I thought you were going to ask something like a balance ambition with being a woman, but you went in a totally different
Well,
direction, and I love that.
you can
No, no,
say
no, no.
that because there's a
Balance ambition with
piece.
my personal fulfillment. I think not having your entire life being pulled into one thing, right? Whether it's your job or your sport. Like, yes, you may spend your entire, but you have to have, like, even Olympians, you've got to have something outside of it that you can also focus on. If you just have that one thing, it takes away a little bit of that safe space, right? And so if you don't meet those ambitions that you have in your career, at least you have something else. So I've, always wanted to be successful in my career, but I also always wanted to be an Olympic gymnast. But then, I was not gonna, I got to be 5'4", so I was a little too tall. That wasn't good enough. Blew out my knee. But then I got a scholarship to college doing diving. So I knew that there was something else I could do. And the same thing with, having this role, doing what I've done and knowing that I can do project management very, very well. I had ballroom dancing, right? that I could do and I could compete there. But even when I didn't do well there, I had makeup that I could learn and do makeup on. So I have being able to have multiple things and not putting all your eggs in one basket, I think is the way that I balance that so that I can be fulfilled by, you know, something I'm doing creatively. It's in the makeup, even if I'm not actively working as much as the makeup artist as I am, as I was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But I have that there as an outlet. I can do fun things like my kid was death metal Bob Ross for Halloween last year because he has super like curly hair and we and he's a big death metal fan and it looks just like Bob Ross's hair, I'm not gonna lie. And we just picked it out. Like it's full on 4C hair. And I was just like,
Okay.
oh, I'm not kidding. Like it is low porosity, all the things. I have it's me. I have 3 different curl patterns in my house. The amount of money I spend on pattern is ridiculous.
Mm.
All
Well, your
but
hair
that
is
can we do
beautiful.
that. What?
Your hair is beautiful.
Cute. What's crazy is like on an aside, this is actually probably half as curly as it was before I had kids. They stole all my curl. I had like ringlet spirals. But now I have this, and then I have 4C, low porosity, and then I've got a high porosity, like 3C, super thick. So much money on curl products. It's ridiculous. For my boys. For my boys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
I'm
yeah.
a boy mom as well.
What are you boy mom as well? Do they have
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
curls? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Oh, it's a thing. And they love it. At least they all love it long now. They just super long. Just, that's the style now. But anyways, personal fulfillment. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing. I get fulfilled by being able to do having these multiple interests and not just having all my eggs in one basket. And I think you have to do that. Even if it's something like writing fanfic or a television show you really like or something like that. It can be small. I don't think it has to be something big. But having, again, that sort of safe space that you can have your personal fulfillment with, and it's not all tied up into one thing.
Okay. What is your personal definition of success and your ultimate goal?
Personal definition of success. Um, I think I hate to say it, I'm going to say it depends. Because I have a personal definition of success for work and my job, like when I'm working as a contract project manager.
Mm-hmm.
my my success, my definition of success is did I deliver the project but not only that, did I deliver the business value? Because it's not just delivering the project, but did that project deliver business value? But when I'm a mom, my definition of success is are my kids healthy? Are they happy? Do they have the opportunities that they need to have? And I've been privileged enough to be able to provide them with a lot of that. Um, but yeah, and then, as a CEO, my definition of success is, you know, are we treating are all our co-founders taken care of and our, the 4 people, 3 people plus me, are we all getting what we need out of this and our customers getting the business value that they need and are we delivering that and are we positioning ourselves to grow? Um, Maybe it's not, not so much the numbers for definition of success, but, have we positioned, have we done the things right that we need to do um, to position us for success? Because you can't always just, numbers are really important and you need to be able to meet those. But if you don't position yourself for them, then you're not going to have that success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's how I define success. I'm wishy-washy on that answer, but I think it's different for every situation. I don't think I can say this is success for one thing. For ballroom dancing, it's like it could be, did I win this competition? Or maybe it's just I came back from an illness and it was just I competed at a very high level competition and I was in top 3, which is great. Was not what I would have done before I'd gotten ill. That would not have been the result I wanted, but it was a win for me at the time. So I think your definition of success has to adjust to your circumstances.
Oh, I love that. My next question for you is, there are risks that people take along their career, right? To figure out, is this the right way to go or not? As you think about those risks, how do you decide which ones are worth taking and which ones maybe won't align with your values or your purpose?
Oh, you're asking a trained project manager about risk? little aside here, I was working on a DoD grant last year before the current admin, and
Mm.
I saw that the DoD had a 127-page document on risk management, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my life." The other people working on this grant with me are like, "It's 127 pages on risk management." I'm like, "I know, right?" They did not understand my joy at that.
Gosh. Oh my goodness. I don't understand your joy at that either.
Because risk is like the biggest thing that you deal with in a project. You're constantly dealing with it, constantly, and you have to know what your risks are and how you're going to deal with them. So, and they had this whole, it was very regimented and very, I was like, I'm going to steal all of this from the DoD. Thanks. So I tend to look at risk in the vein of a project manager, because that's what I've done my whole life. Um, is, it's really thinking about, okay, what's my contingency plan? What's my mitigation plan? What's my, you know, what is going to trigger this type of thing? So a lot of times I think of it, I kind of spreadsheet it in my in my head, even for smaller decisions. Like, and even like a risk, like for example, it's the low stakes risk of going we're going on a vacation, right? And I'm like, okay, so we can go to this place, but we can't get to this place, then we can go to this place, then we can go to this place. What will we miss if we do this? What will we do that? How much will it be? If I make the decision later, should I buy it here? That type of thing. Like I spreadsheet it all, and that's how I deal with it. So if there's a risk I'm going to take, like, do I want to continue on doing makeup if I stopped? If I wanted to do that, I was like, I went through it in my brain, and sometimes I actually just write it down and write down what my risks are. Like, okay, I'm gonna, have to. I wanted to be a ballroom dance makeup like exclusively for a while, and I thought about that, and I was like, okay, but then I'm going to be traveling a lot, and my kids are young, and my
Hmm.
husband travels so sometimes, and I'm like, well, that's not going to work. What are my mitigations for that? I have family here. Do I want to do that? They need some more support. I tend to I tend to risk mitigate. I do risk mitigation and do a risk log, and it may be in my head or just scratching it out. Some people do pros and cons type of thing like that. I do a risk mitigation because there are so many things that can happen, and you need to have the multiple options. So that's how I go through that risk mitigation, and then there's that back to what you were saying before. Does it align with my values? And I
Hmm.
use that risk mitigation strategies that I've learned over the last 20 years to see if they align with my strategies.
Excellent.
So, but yeah, it was a very cool document. I was very excited about it. No, me and other project managers are the only ones like, yeah, baby.
Uh,
Risk
yeah, I
mitigation.
think you might be a small percentage of the population who enjoys risk management documents. Oh boy. My last question is, you know, for those who are listening to this podcast and they're looking at maybe a time in their career where they were laid off or, they're looking for their next opportunity, what advice would you give them around reinvention of themselves and their career?
I would say yes more often than they would before. Say yes. When somebody wants to meet with you, even if you don't think you're going to get anything out of it, if it's not somebody maybe aligns initially with what you think, say yes to those meetings. Say yes to those networking items. There's free networking items. You don't have to pay for every networking thing out there. When you meet people, say yes is a big thing. And honestly, be shameless. That's really hard. I'm not going to say that's easy, but be shameless with like, hey, I would like to meet with you. Or hey, here's my card. This is what I do. Hey, what do you do? For ballroom dancing, we used to get free lessons every time we referred somebody in. So literally and I was like, I want all the lessons. So literally the like first or second thing I said whenever I met him, I was like, I'm a ballroom dancer. And then I'd be like, oh, you should come and try it out. And I don't know. They were like, you brought in another guest. I'm like, yeah, hi. So just gotta be, and I think that helped a little bit with this. I'm just shameless. Just be shameless with that. And most people are gonna say no. That's fine. They're not gonna hate you for it. At least they shouldn't. If they do, well, then you don't want to know that person anyway. But I would say yes, and then be shameless. Those are my two things.
I love it. Great advice. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been an amazing conversation with you. I wish you all the best, continued success with this company that you're leading
You.
right now. And I would love to just stay connected with you.
Absolutely. This is fantastic. I love it. And I'm so glad that I said yes to you when you reached out on LinkedIn. I'm so pleased.
I'm
So,
so glad you did as well.
and good luck with all of your endeavors. And I hope to see Rise and Reinvent everywhere, all over the place.
Thank you. Thank you so much.